So Jojo Siwa announced that she has a girlfriend, which is what persuaded her to come out. And I am so happy for her and her girlfriend. And it reminded me of when I was, 17? Well, no, younger in fact. I had my first ever girlfriend when I was 14. And we kept it a secret. So I want to tell you about my secret girlfriend. Because this story, honestly, some of the things I'm about to tell you, it sounds like it's come out of a TV show or a movie because it was just so amazing. Like, honestly, it was great. But it's honestly, it's all true. I'm not gonna lie in this video. Like, all of this that I'm telling you is the truth. But oh my god. So when I was 14, we moved house. So I lived about 15 minutes away from where I live now. And it was basically because my dad liked this particular house and we had to do a lot of renovation work to it. So we were temporarily living in a cheap hotel for about 3 months. So we were living there whilst our house was being renovated, gutted, so many things would be happening. And so at that same time I'd moved schools to from one high school to another because the one before that was just awful and they weren't meeting my needs as an autistic person and it was just bad. So I went to this new high school for a bit. I didn't have that many friends because the friendship groups had already pretty much been established at this point. And I'd moved house and it was just so much change. And I would just sit alone in my room, like playing The Sims on my laptop back then. And I didn't have anyone in the area to really spend time with. And one day at school, I was in like the Autism Resource Centre, which is where like the autistic people were kind of looked after, and that area was designated specifically to them to get away from the stressful aspects of school. And I was there and they said, oh, there's a girl from the learning centre upstairs that we think you and her would make great friends with. We think that you would help each other because you seem quite similar. And I was like, okay. And they're like, we're gonna arrange for you to meet at, I think it was lunchtime or break time / recess, something like that. So we did. And we were in what's called like the quiet room. And I was sat on the floor in a beanbag and it was like the height of summer. So there was a big fan in the room, like blowing air around the room. And when this girl came in the room, the fan was like blowing in her hair. She had long blonde hair, like down to here, maybe slightly longer. And it was like, wow, who is this? And we got talking and we were talking about where we live. And she was like, oh, where'd you live? And I was like, oh, this place. And she was just like, oh, so do I. And she was like, what road? And I was like, oh, this one. And she was just like, no way. And I was like, what? And she was like, that's where I live. And I was like, you live on the same road as me? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, whereabouts? And she told me. And I was like, oh my god, that is on the same side of the road as me. It's just further up. And I was just like, what? This is crazy. I could not believe it. I could not believe it. And we had a lot in common, like we were chatting and she loves horses and so do I. And she likes video games a little bit, and so do I, and she likes adventure stuff, like outdoor stuff, a lot. And we were just talking, and we had so much in common, and I was like, oh my god, it was amazing. So we arranged to meet up after school in our local area. We went out on our bicycles, and she showed me all of the shortcuts in the area, like how to get to the park and which parks are around and little cool hangout spots nearby. And even to this day, I know where to go in my local area because of her. I'm like, oh, if I go this way, it's shorter to get to the park compared to this way if I go here. And, you know, and I know how to get around because of her. And we ended up becoming inseparable, and we were best friends. And, yeah, and it was amazing because the trouble is, though, she was 15 and I was 14. And she, honestly, because she had autism and dyslexia, stuff like that, she couldn't actually read, which made texting just almost impossible. So we would call each other on the phone, and we would run up expensive phone bills that would cost like £100, like literally would cost about £100. And then my parents would have to pick up the bill, and they were just like, why, like, what are you doing? Why are you calling this girl so much? What is happening? And I was like, oh, we're best friends, you know. And they were like, oh, well, you live down the road from each other, why don't you just... And I was like, well, if it's like 10 p.m, it's too late, and it's just, you know, inconvenient times. And we found some walkie-talkies that my parents had bought from when we went to Disney in Florida in like 2002 when I was like 8 years old. And these walkie-talkies were designed for people who don't have a phone in the Disney parks but still need to communicate with their family and stuff like that. So the range, it was quite distant, and we realised that it reached from my house to hers because it was like, it was less than 1 kilometre away. So that's how we would talk to each other. Like, oh, it's so amazing. And within a few weeks, I had kind of, I realised I liked her. I just knew. And I tear up thinking about it because this girl was so important to me, so special to me. But anyway, I'll get to that. So I plucked up the courage to ask her if she would be my girlfriend, and she said yes, and I was just like, oh my god. And where her house is, there is like a building in the way of her house. So if you stood outside her house and you looked, like if you stood outside her house, there's like an outbuilding in the way. So if someone was looking out of her windows of her house, they wouldn't see us. We were behind this, and I kissed her, and it, oh, so like sweet. And then we were like just completely inseparable. We would spend loads of time together. Like I used to do taekwondo a lot, like the Korean martial art. I took her with me, like one evening a week we would go together, and she got to about yellow belt, which is pretty much the 3rd belt in, so it goes white belt, yellow tag, yellow belt. She basically got to that, so technically the 2nd belt, you know. And I helped her with that. And yeah, it was great. It was so great, and we used to do activities together, like horse riding. She got me into horse riding. I started horse riding lessons, and I did that for about 3 years. and we used to go on field rides, which is like, there's people with horses nearby, and we would ride these horses out, and she's very experienced, like she does all sorts of like competitions to do with equestrianism. Her siblings, you know, would do big competitions for horse riding, and you know, she would take me in like a big horse box, which is like, it's basically like a caravan that has like a massive space at the back for a horse. You know, you get the idea. And we'd go to these competitions and we'd watch her sister compete and all of that. But I was just so in love with her. Whenever we did like any arts and crafts at like youth club, I used to go to an autistic youth club, and I used to write her name and my name together, like heart-shaped things and like our initials together. I was obsessed with this girl, so obsessed. And one of the days, we were talking about how she can't read, and I says to her, maybe I could teach you how to read. And she says to me, oh, I've tried, but and she told me that she really hates school and she struggles with school. And so I was like, okay, and I picked up a fridge magnet off the fridge, and I says to her, read this. And it was like a quote. It was like, good friends are like stars, you can't always see them, but they're always there, or something like that. And she looked at it and she says, okay, let's see if there's any words that I know. And I was like, oh, okay. And she couldn't read it. And I was like, oh, I've mentioned this in my videos before about this relationship, but I've never gone into detail. But I taught her how to read by breaking down the words. You know, like, it's hard to think of an example, but I would break words down, so I would shorten the words, you know. Like the word likely, I'd say it's the word like and then L-Y at the end, L-I-K-E-L-Y, and she'd ask me how to spell things, like when you text someone you go, ah, that's sweet. She says, how do you spell R? And I was like, A-W-W, and I says to her, memorise that. And I would give her tips on reading, and she knows how to read, and literally it brings me so much joy to know that whenever she is out and about and she needs to read something, she can now because of me, and that is so amazing. But anyway, we would have sleepovers, yeah, and I learned a lot of skills, if you know what I'm saying. And we would go camping in the backyard, and we'd have a tent. She was really good with camping and outdoors, and she knew how to pitch a tent, whereas I didn't know. And she would pitch a tent, and we would be in the tent all night, you know, having a good time. And it was just, it was amazing and so special, and I experienced what it felt like to be in love for the first time, like the best way possible a teenager can experience it, you know. And so from the age of 14 to about 17-ish, 17 and a half, something like that. It's amazing. It was amazing. And the problem is, though, we couldn't tell anybody about our relationship. So, you know, the amount of times that our parents almost caught us kissing or anything, it was quite difficult. And she said to me, which still upsets me to this day, she says to me, I would literally marry you if, you know, my parents and family weren't homophobic, like if it was more accepted. And that breaks me. Like, not so much anymore, as much, but back then I was crushed. And she used to cheat on me a lot with boys, like all the time, and she would say stuff to me like, oh, this stuff that we're doing is great for experience with the boys. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh, this stuff that we're doing, it isn't actually real or legitimate or official because it's not a girl and a boy, she was saying to me, and that upset me a lot because I know that that is not true. Oh, it was just because of the homophobia, because she had, what, 3 sisters? They all had boyfriends, you know, she wanted to be just like them. It's really sad. Yeah, she left school at 16 and I was still 15, so I was in year 10/10th grade and she'd left, so I had to do 11th grade/year 11 all by myself, and I didn't have anyone to stick up for me anymore because she used to get the bullies and push them against the wall and yell at them if they were horrible to me. But the trouble is, looking back, the people that were bullying us for being gay, they're actually gay themselves now. Like, they came out years later, and the trouble is, because we got bullied at school for being gay, because people kind of worked it out, you know, people figured it out, and we thought that no one could see us, and we kissed, and someone, like a kid, saw and yelled, "I'm telling," and then after that it was just awful, and we got bullied really badly. But it stopped other LGBT people from coming out because they saw how badly treated we were being, and it was awful, and I felt so bad for that, but there was nothing we could do, and you know, we were just so in love. It was very difficult, and she just cheated on me so much that I just gave up. I was just like, I just forget it, you know, and I knew that I needed to break away from her. And as well, when she moved school, she went to do a course in animal care, and then after that she did another course, and I forgot what it is. I think it's public services, something like that. I don't know, but anyway, we didn't see each other at school anymore, and she moved house, which made it worse because we couldn't really get to each other anymore as often or anything. And that's pretty much how we ended up breaking up. She kept cheating on me a lot, she left school, and she moved house. That was basically how it was. It wasn't anything I did that was wrong, honestly. I was so in love with her, she was so in love with me, but we couldn't really do anything about it, you know. It was really sad, you know. So that's basically that story of my secret girlfriend. I'm probably missing quite a few details out, I don't even know anymore, but it's really sad. And one of my friends was best friends with her at the time, and we talk about it sometimes, and it turns out that she cheated on me with a lot more people than I knew and realised at the time, so that's great. That's great, you know, so there's that. But yeah, I got my first experience of being in love as a teen. Like, it's more intense as an adult. Like, you know, in my last relationship it was more intense because I'm older and, you know, more mature, etc. But anyway, I'm trying to make sure this video isn't too long. I talk forever, I'm so sorry. But yeah. See you in another video. Subscribe if you haven't already. I post videos every week. I'm trying to make it every Sunday at 2 PM GMT. So keep an eye out for a new video then. Like the video, comment if you share any of your relationship love stories with me or anything that you really want to say, you know. And I'll see you in another video. Bye.